Are you guys having a good time? Should we do this again next year? I think so. I'm having a great time. Okay, right now what we're going to do, we have several special things that we're going to do, and this is the first one, so I'm going to take over for a few minutes here. You may have heard me before. My name is Ed Carnes. I'm on the Twin Lakes Fiddle Festival Committee. Also joining me is Harold Miller, who is also on the committee with me. Stephen Elder is in the crowd, Lisa Ferris and Joyce Mudd, and we're all very, very happy that you all came here and you're joining us for this competition. One of the things that we wanted to do when we talked about having, I think I'll take this one, that's a little bit easier. One of the things that we wanted to do when we had this festival is, I don't know if you heard us talk earlier with Jesse Haycraft, but Grayson County and Litchfield has a very rich tradition of fiddling. And one of the things that we want to do specifically here is honor some of the fiddle players who were here before. I guess I'm not a younger guy anymore, but when I started out, we wanted to honor some of the folks who had been here and pioneered fiddling in Grayson County. And a lot of these folks I think you've met and you've heard of, but we want to specifically recognize them. So the first gentleman we want to recognize, we've actually named the senior trophy for this person. And we have a biography. We're going to tell you about him, and we have his family here. This gentleman's name is Mr. Herman Alvey, and I would like to ask the Alvey family to please come on stage with me, please. Who remembers Herman? Herman was one of the best fiddle players that ever came out of here. He was my friend. I miss him greatly. So what we're going to do, we're going to tell you a little bit about Herman. And then after we tell you about Herman, we're going to recognize the Alvey family. They're all coming up here, all of his kids and his grandkids. And what we're going to do is we're going to award the senior trophy, which is called the Herman Alvey Award. And that is our way at the Twin Lakes Fiddle Festival to honor those who came before us, some of the pioneers of fiddling, Mr. Herman Alvey. So what I'm going to do now, we want to tell you a little bit about Herman. I'm going to turn it over to his youngest daughter, Lisa Mae Alvey Ferris, who's going to read and tell you about her daddy. Would you like me to read it?
Okay, I'm going to do that.
Okay.
I'm proud to be here tonight, and I would really rather that Ed read this because I get emotional. My whole family's here, okay? My brothers and sisters, they're all here. So I would rather Ed read this because I'm so proud of this family.
Okay, but you're going to have to let me have that, I think. And I have to thank all the Alvey family who helped me put this together. Herman Alvey. Herman P. Alvey Sr. was born November 1927 to George and Gertrude Bradley Alvey in Pearlman, Kentucky. He was the 8th of 10 children. Originally from Hart County, the Alveys moved across No Lynn River into Grayson County in the mid-20s. At first, they lived in an old log home surrounded by acres and acres of rolling hills till they built their new home for their large family. There was music and square dancing almost every Saturday night at the Alveys' home. The older siblings, Jim, Paul, Lawrence, and sister Alberta, were already playing mandolin, fiddle, banjo, and guitar, while Herman was still too little to hold an instrument. He sat on the floor, he watched, he listened, he learned, he absorbed the music. Of course, back in those days, before they had the orchestra here, they didn't have lessons or reading. Herman's folks told him, you just have to hear it. So at age 4, Herman began to play the mandolin, and his uncle Walter Lee Bradley was a fiddle player, yet another fiddle player back here in Grayson County. And he told Herman, if you can play the mandolin, you can play the fiddle. So when Herman was 9, he started playing the fiddle, and all the other instruments took a backseat to Herman. He fell in love with the fiddle. At the age of 18, Herman started playing the Renfro Valley Barn Dance. Who's heard of Renfro Valley? No. And in 1950, he married Bee Pierce, who was the daughter of Walton and Clara Pierce of Iberia. However, like a lot of folks back in those days, he was drafted in the Army, and he went to serve in the Korean War. And when he was shipped overseas, he could only take one personal item. What do you think Herman took? Fiddle. His fiddle. Exactly right. So while he was overseas, he was also in Austria. He occasionally played at the Officers Club. And one time when Grandpa Jones came into town, he called Herman on stage to play for him, and they played 8 more miles to Louisville, and I'm sure that made Herman a little bit homesick. What do you guys think? So when Herman was overseas, his first child, Junior, was born. So Herman comes back, and he and Bea moved to Litchfield. They eventually had 7 children, and Herman passed his love for music down to his family. All these guys sing or play. And Herman did a lot of things when he came back to Litchfield. He worked for Litchfield Cleaners, D.G. Hayes, Glasscock Trucking, but he always played music. Every weekend he would be playing music somewhere around Lincoln Jamboree, Larry's Dance Barn, and he always looked forward to Grayson County Day. Do you guys remember a Fountain Ferry up in Louisville? Herman loved to go up there, and he'd meet some of his friends like Bud Meredith, Lonnie Pierce, and play. But there was a lot more to Herman than just fiddling. As he slowed down a little bit from working, he opened his own shop, the Fiddler's Outpost, down in Reynolds Station, Kentucky. He worked with wood, he repaired instruments, he refinished instruments. He even repaired Bill Monroe's Uncle Pen's fiddle, Pendleton Vandiver. Remember him? Uncle Pen? Herman actually repaired that fiddle and played it for Bill Monroe. Herman did a lot of things. He had a passion for long rifles, flint blocks, muzzle loaders. He tinkered with old clocks, and he just had a lot. He had a lot going on, and he loved music. He has 3 granddaughters who play fiddle, and some play a variety of instruments, and his music legacy goes on. Herman closed his shop in 2009. He was getting arthritis, but he still played. And he passed away in 2010. As the last farewell to Herman, Kevin Mudd, who's on stage, Joseph Alexander, who's doing our sound, Morgan Duncan, and our friend Brent Miller from the Kentucky State Championship played bluegrass at his grade size service. Herman's buried at St. Joseph, and his son Bill found a wonderful and fitting quote for the back of his headstone. Music is said to be the speech of angels. So here at the Twin Lakes National Fiddler Championship, I can tell you I miss Herman. He was my buddy. I saw him in all the contests. There was never a more ferocious competitor than Herman Alvey. When he stepped on this stage, he was here to win, folks. And then he had that glint in his eye, and you knew when Herman stepped up there, it's like, oh boy, I hope I don't have to fiddle off against him. So we would like to honor Herman Alvey, and we thank the Alvey family for being here. And at this point, we are going to ask the Alvey family to please stay up on stage, and we're going to call Kevin Mudd to come back up here, and we're going to call the senior winners and present the awards. Let's hear it for Herman. Would any of you guys like to say anything about your dad, your grandpa? Margaret, come on, I know you always have something to say.
I know Daddy would love this event, and I want to thank all of you all for coming out and supporting this. Thank you.
Papa Herman actually taught me to play the violin, and there's a lot of things that you can say in words, but there's so much more you can say in music, and I cherish that relationship with him because, you know, music speaks to one another in a way that you just can't put into words, and I'll forever, you know, cherish our conversations in between fiddle pieces together. And I'm actually wearing his boots today. The joke has been, are my feet really big or are his feet really small? We have decided my feet are really big. So thank you all for being here. I know it mean a lot to my papa.
And I think Herman, thanks Jamie. I think Herman will be saying, why are you guys making such a big deal about me anyway? So Kevin Mudd, let's get the senior fiddle players up here. Our finalist, Stephen Elder, if you'd please come up here. And our Fiddle Festival Queen, Hope, if you would come on up.
Okay, I guess we need John, John, and John on the stage, don't we? Yeah. 3 Johns. Okay, listen. I know what you three look like. Let's turn and face them. Let's give them a shot. All right, 2012 senior category is third place, Mr. John Lanham. Oh, you want to hand it to him? Oh, or who's?
I'm sorry.
Second place, Mr. John Stivers. And ladies and gentlemen, the Herman Alvey Award for the senior fiddle category. 2012 Twin Lakes National Fiddler Championship goes to Mr. John Jarbo. John, and John, could you stand up here and get your picture taken? Okay. Now, while the picture's being taken, I got one more little bit of trivia that I want to share with you. John Jarbo, when he played his two tunes, played them on a fiddle that Herman Alvey had made. And I guess I should say played, because Herman never made a fiddle that he didn't play. Played them all.
I want to tell you all that this is pretty special to us, because when we brought Daddy back to Litchfield, Paul helped us move him back. I haven't seen him since Dad passed away, and you don't know how important this is to all of us. He means so much to us. Thank you.
Okay.